this one. Good morning. It's Monday. Well, I cut off the end of the music, but that's close enough. I'm Dave Glovin. You're not. And I don't know. We're partially reopened. But I guess we're partially shut down. But they got their 60 vote and 40 people that didn't vote for it. And I guess they're happy. They took the ACA extension off the table. That means if you're paying your insurance company $399 a month to sell you a $1 policy for that month, you're still paying $400. A lot of people are going to lose their insurance. The games need to stop. Because the men and women up in Washington, D.C. that are going to make that decision don't pay for their insurance. We do. And their insurance, Congress Care, as I always call it, is really better than what you get on the Affordable Care Act. So some things need to happen. They need to move on the Affordable Care Act. They need to move in two ways, I see it. Congress needs to get the Affordable Care Act. Not anything better than we get, or Congress Care needs to come down to $400 a month. Then, because those people don't want to pay $400 a month, they need to bring it down lower. We can take President Trump and we can say, well, he went to Wheaton School of Economics, so he's an economist. If you want to say he's not a real estate developer right now, we'll get to that later. But right now, he's an economist. You have to figure he's going to call the top person at each of the, say, top 10 insurance companies in the United States and say, $1 a month for a policy they subsidized for $399 a month. Something is wrong because you make billions of dollars anyway. We shouldn't pay you $399 to sell us a monthly policy for $1. It's really BS. Now they're using this fancy word, redirection. Your $399 is being redirected to the insurance company who's selling you a policy for $1. So nothing changed. As far as I could read, if you're in the military, you're getting paid. That includes if you're in the military, got hurt in the military, got retired from the military, you're still getting paid, unless you were furloughed. If you were not furloughed, then you're still getting paid. If you worked for the government and were not furloughed, you're still getting paid. I could be wrong, so don't quote me for saying what I read. But it's really time for the games to end. Subsidies turning into redirection, turning into giving an insurance company billions of dollars to sell you a policy for $1. Honestly, that's what Barack Obama had a problem with when he first kicked out the Affordable Care Act, because at some point he said, we're not going to subsidize you anymore. And the insurance company said, then we're not going to sell Affordable Care Act policies anymore. And he said, okay. And they said, okay. And they left. And I guess people still had insurance. I bought Medicare, so I can't have an Affordable Care Act policy. It's against the law. And I'm not going to break the law. So get a hold of your men and women in Washington, D.C. and figure out how they voted and yell at them either way, because they didn't do anything for you on this. You know, Chuck Schumer, the Democrat minority leader of the Senate, who claims that he had all the leverage in the world, didn't have squat. Other than he didn't get the $1.5 trillion that he hoped he was going to get for whatever he wanted to use it for. So that's where we are. It can be a very short broadcast. I could end it on that note, meaning that we've basically reached the 5 minutes that I was trying to get to. Like I said, there might be several 5 minutes in the course of a day, but that's better than an hour broadcast. Anyway, broadcast. Words did not come out of my mouth right. Anyway, we're here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8:30 a.m. on the East Coast, and we are here selected Saturdays and selected Saturdays, at 10 a.m. because we give you a chance to sleep a little bit later. Plus, I like to sleep a little bit later. And selected Tuesdays and Thursdays if anyone wants to do something evening-wise. We're here as well. Anyway, I don't understand what they did. You know, people are telling me it's a partial reopening. The government reopened, Congress reopened, Congress passed whatever they needed to pass for SNAP, so you will continue to get SNAP through 2026, I guess, January of 2026. So you won't have to worry about having SNAP to make sure that you have a great Thanksgiving, that you have a great Christmas, and that you have a great New Year. That no one knows after that. They funded the government for a long time through whatever, too. I guess they're trying to move to a yearly thing and make CRs the end of how they do it. But, you know, sometimes I wonder if those of us who really don't have any knowledge on politics can go up there and do a better job. And I think we could. Why? Because we meet what Washington had in mind when the bodies were created. He wanted people who weren't dependent on the salary because they would hopefully make the decisions. That it was, he didn't want anybody really getting paid other than just some stipend to cover the costs of them being there. That was a good idea too. But I mean, you have Nancy Pelosi, who's retiring and gets something like $160,000 a month. $160,000 a year, plus some bonuses thrown in there because she was a former Speaker of the House. So it kind of goes up a little bit. So let's call it $200,000 a year. It's probably a little bit less, but let's call it $200,000 a year. We're going to continue to pay someone in the government who was in the government $200,000 a year. She's 85 years old, and I'm going to use language that's probably not respectful, but say she passes away in 15 years at 100 years old. We're going to pay her $200,000 a year until that happens. She can retire at $200,000 a year. You take Chuck Schumer, who was Senate Majority Leader, and he gets a little bit less because he was only Senate Majority Leader, and now he's Senate Minority Leader. So he gets a little bit less. That needs to be looked at too. When you're done with your time in Congress, yeah, okay, if you put money in the retirement fund, I guess you can take it and go because that's what it was there for. But realistically, we as a country should not be paying the people who used to work for us because they're supposed to be still young enough to go out and get another job. You know, we're going to continue paying her $200,000. We continue to give her lots of money that made her and her husband Paul over $264 million to live on. And whether or not you question it was illegal stock moves or not, that's not the issue that I'm really throwing at you. I'm just throwing at you the fact that someone on $174,000 a year turned her net worth into $264 million. Something you can't do. Because if she can get a 16,000 something percent increase on her investments, she ought to be teaching everybody else how to do it. If it's legal, if it's not legal, we know what should happen. But let's just take it from the case that it's completely legal. You know, teach everybody else how to become a 264 millionaire. Or listen to Democrat socialists who say, well, why should anybody be worth $264 million? They should spread their millions around 264 people until each person gets, or however many people, 264 million people until each one gets $1 million. They don't say that Nancy Pelosi should do that. They say guys like Elon Musk who are looking at being the first trillionaire because the board of directors of Tesla is looking at a compensation plan that kicks him up to $1 trillion next year. So, you know, is he required to give some of that money to everybody else? Is he really required to give some of that money to that mother of 7 who sits at home and hasn't had a job in 15 years, doesn't want a job because somebody else pays her housing bill, and if she gets a job, then she has to pay it? At least that's what she said. You know, I don't really care what those people have to say because, again, that 15 hours a week of community service. Oh, wow, I said it today. The 15 hours of community service, or the 15 hours of working, or the 15 hours of going to school and hopefully getting a job after you graduate from school, really isn't that hard to do. I mean, I got Parkinson's, but I'm sure I can do something for 15 hours a week. You know, I sit here at my desk and I can answer my phone. I can look where things are on my computer. I can send them to where they need to go. Most of the time. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I'm sore when I stand up, so I need to do something before I stand up. But, 15 hours a week really isn't that hard. And if it is, I'm sure they'll make exceptions for you or me. We're at the line of it's just not working the way it's working. We need to do something about it. So talk to your elected people and find out how they voted on it. And if you don't like how they voted on it, ask them why and question everything else. Tell them that you're probably going to make sure they get removed at the end of the year, if they can. You know, everything I've read seems to be to hold that the Republicans will continue to own own the Senate in 2026 or 2030, whatever it is that the Senate is up. And they will probably hold on to the House because they've got a big enough block over the Democrats to make sure they continue to hold on to the House. But again, as I have said before, maybe it's time to get rid of Republican this, Democrat that, and start looking for people who will go and say, American this, American that, America this. You know, I am going to end it on the Trump ballroom, okay? Because I'm tired of hearing people say, well, he didn't pull permits, he didn't get permission, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. Well, everything you want to say he didn't do as president, he doesn't have to do it. He didn't have to pull permits from agencies because he wanted to make changes at the White House. There were people that, I guess, controlled whether or not the project ever happened. And they were Biden holdovers, and they probably would have been replaced because they were Biden holdovers anyway. And the Trump people, who knows? Did they say no on anything? It appears not. Was there anything to say no to? It appears not. So you can be upset that Donald John Trump is the one who had the money or found the money and is building what he wanted, because Donald John Trump is the person who is doing it and not one of the other presidents in 150 years who all wanted to do the same exact thing, but they couldn't raise the private money to do it. And I do want to correct myself. Obama did not spend $330 million of taxpayer money to build the basketball court. Everything I read said he did. But it was, again, private money, which he made sure went and did it. But he did do one thing better. Supposedly what I read was that he, in fact, set it up so that the tennis court, which was already there, could be moved around and become a tennis court if a president wanted a tennis court there, or even if a president that wanted a basketball court there decided he was going to invite a bunch of friends over to play tennis. So, was it any better? Does it excuse anything? I don't know. Trump offered to pay for it and do it under Obama, and Obama just didn't want anything to do with it because Obama didn't want to do anything with Trump. Why? Because I guess the Democrat turned Republican. Live to get by all this bullshit. If you're the president of the United States and you looked at the plans and you knew that the only way you could do it was if someone offered to pay for it, then you got to look around at the people who offered to pay for it. If Donald John Trump is the only person who offered to pay for it, then you got to look at whether or not he can do it and not be mad at him because he had the money to do it. And yeah, you can stuff all the You can stuff all the, well, it's a 150-year-old building that he wanted to rip down and make a ballroom. He's a real estate developer. May not be very good in some areas because people don't go to his casinos anymore. Well, people don't go to any of the casinos down there for any extended period of time. They still do go to his casinos, but not like they used to. And I don't know how Mar-a-Lago works, that, people that are there that are members, I don't know how long, if they actually live there or not, but some of it does in fact pay what it's supposed to do. But I don't know, and I really don't care. So excuse me as I cough this morning and tell you, look at what happened with the government reopening partially and make sure you're there. And if you're not, find out why. If you are, be very happy, but find out why the rest of it isn't open. Because again, when I say to a person, a $400 a month insurance policy, and you would have been paying a $399 subsidy to that insurance company that makes billions, so that you only have to pay them $1 a month for the policy, is wrong. Very much wrong. It's just wrong. You're paying for it on both ends. It's not affordable because you made it affordable, but you made it affordable in a way that really isn't affordable. I want you to have a great month of November. I want you to have an excellent Thanksgiving. I want you to have a Christmas. I want you to have an 80-degree Christmas. But I've been dreaming of an 80-degree Christmas every year because here in Florida, it could be 80 degrees during Christmas. We got to start sweating the little stuff, I guess. If you want to keep paying that $399 subsidy, you keep paying that $399 redirection, because that's what they're calling it now. They're not calling it a subsidy, they're calling it a redirection. I don't want to pay that. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to, but I'm not glad that other people have to pay it. Because $1 billion a year insurance company is continuing to make money off of you because you pay both ends. You pay $1 for the policy and $399 to subsidize it. Let that sit in. And then I'm sure a whole slew of you can figure out how to pay for it. That's not $400 a year with you paying the entire thing. Be happy that SNAP is getting full benefits, because SNAP deserves full benefits for what they do. They are not going to make any changes through, I believe, January of 2026, which is what I've been asking for. They're not going to go looking for people that shouldn't be on it, illegals that shouldn't be on it, this and that. Everybody's going to get it, even that mother of 7 who's a celebrity on the internet by now and making probably billions of dollars a year herself. So if you're on Section 8 illegally and you're getting food stamps illegally, and you're getting whatever other assistance illegally, more power to you, I guess. But when we stop it, the question is, will you stay here or will you leave? You'll probably leave and go somewhere else that will give you free existence. terrible way to live, going from one city to the next, looking to be survived or, you know. Anyway, we're coming up on 30 minutes and I'm going to end it because now I think I'm starting to say everything again and or repeat, and I don't really want to do that. Don't want to rinse, wash, repeat it anymore. If you watch Boogie with the Bull and you have an idea for a Boogie with the Bull, please let me know about it. And odds are I will probably say yes, especially if it's not political. There are so many other things we could talk about. And I say it every day. Classic Mercedes, classic cars, classic music. Maybe we can just sit here and talk. You know? Maybe we could just sit here and talk. That's more an idea for 7 p.m. Tuesday or Thursday. It won't be both, but 7 p.m. Tuesday or Thursday, because we want everybody to be involved. Want the chat room filled on Facebook. Want it filled on YouTube. Want it filled everywhere we can get it, so that everybody is involved. I'm sorry, I'm a little gassy this morning, but I'm having fun and drinking coffee. Like I said, it's the purpose. And executive producer Agnes was over there a few minutes ago on the couch watching. She may have probably run back to her office because nothing matters. I don't know what political party she is. And it doesn't matter. It's like I said, you can be an independent. This is coming from me. You can be an independent, but if you vote with the Republicans, you're really not an independent. If you vote with the Democrats, you're really not an independent. If you're an independent that votes independently and makes a decision for yourself, then you're an independent. And that's what I say. Americans need to start making decisions for America. It's that simple. It really is that simple. We are doing fantastically well around the world. We're doing fantastically well bringing in money to do things here. I don't know why, but, we are bringing in tariff money. Yeah, it's affecting your price on some things, but you know what? Some of these companies like Temu have been saying that hopefully they will be able to find companies here in the United States that they can buy their stuff from. And you'll see their prices go down. And obviously, you may not on other things. Like you look at the Android tablet prices, some of the kits they have that are $60. You can't beat that here in the U.S. When you figure out the cost of making everything involved in it, you can't. You just can't do it. But when you look at the cost of other things, maybe you can. But anyway, I'm Dave Glovin. You're not. I'm just a crazy guy. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. on selected Saturdays and 7 p.m. on selected Tuesdays and or Thursdays. And that is that. Just about 30 minutes into the broadcast. So let me know if you have an idea. We'll hit this one and get it ready.